Hololive is such a versatile set with many deck building possibilities available to anyone who dares delve into the set. 8 choice can be a very straightforward deck, but even then there's a lot of approaches to it, and today I'd like to show you an approach to yellow-green 8 choice. Now the main reason to build 8 choice would be the Coco finisher. She has a pretty unique ability that allows you to mill the bottom 3 cards of your opponent's deck and then burn 1 if there's a climax between those. The unique part being that she can do so up to 6 times, meaning we can mill 18 cards from our opponent's deck off of a single copy of Coco and hitting them with a barrage of pinks for 1, possibly even forcing them to refresh in the process. While not necessarily having the biggest reach, the card has some scary game closing potential and also offers some degree of deck disruption. She provides these at a flexible rate as we do not have to pay the max amount every single time. However, putting this card in a full 8 choice list will allow us to flexibly hit the stock and hand thresholds needed to resolve this card to its max. 8 choice wouldn't be anything without a level 1 climax combo on choice as well, and in Hololive we have plenty of choice between some very serviceable combos. I'd personally suggest choosing either between the Watame level 1 from the booster set and the Korone level 1 from the Gamer's Trial deck. The Watame level 1 gains power during your turn and will allow you to attack for at least 7.5k power in all lanes. Her climax combo is not reliant on a reverse, allowing you to plus for free while also adding some amount of milling to get you through your first deck. The Korone level 1 gains power on play, giving her the possibility to reach slightly higher numbers than the Watame, which is nice to have but might also be necessary as her climax combo is on reverse. She also allows you to assign the climax combo to another character, making it a lot easier to resolve than a regular on reverse climax combo. The Watame has some inherent deck speed that the Korone lacks, while the Korone has a lot more selectivity and is less awkward to resolve in the later stages of the game, where you might not want to randomly mill your deck. Watame will free up some slots for flex picks, while Korone will need you to run some amount of power pumps and deck speed tools to bridge the gap. Either of these two cards will function very well in this deck, and you can pick either depending on your personal tastes. Moving on to the level 0 for plussing, you really can't go wrong with the Aqua level 0. 3500 power in the middle position while also having an on-def effect that allows you to go up to +2 off of a single card. You can run this card in almost any deck without downsides. It's a very solid card. To supplement the Aqua, we can run a number of Miko drop searches from the Gen 0 trial deck. At 3500 power, this card can serve as a turn 1 player, as well as a way of contesting multiple lanes together with the Aqua. Now the Aqua only gets plus 3k power in center, and this card can cover the side lanes, making it so that we can contest anything at level 0, especially middle runners, which have started to become more commonly played. At the same time, she also allows us to convert the Aqua pluses we get towards a level 1 climax combo, as well as just being a general hand fix in the later stages of the game. Instead of the Aqua or the Miko, you can definitely opt to run the Korone runner. While 1500 power is not amazing, the free run on her is nice, but the top check ability on her is very useful to have for some of the other cards we can consider running. Now Brainstorm options are plenty in Hololive, but again we can narrow it down to mostly 2 options. The Matsuri Salvage Brainstorm will serve perfectly with either climax combo, allowing us to pump our level 1 or higher characters with plus 1500 power for easier contesting. On the other hand, we have the Toa Search Brainstorm, which is probably a lot easier to get your hands on and has a very useful alarm ability that can give any of our characters twin drive, allowing us to snowball into either extra soul or some choice triggers, but also allow us to pay out triggered climaxes during the attack phase. This also means that drawing into multiple copies of this brainstorm during the game is never really bad, as you always have the option of clocking them for a small bonus. An honorable mention is the Mio Brainstorm from the Gamer's Trial deck. If you do opt to play the Korone Climax combo, she does give all of your level 1 Korone plus 1k power and mills an extra card off of the Brainstorm, which already compensates a bit for the decrease in deck speed. However, as she is a draw Brainstorm, she does lose out on a lot of selectivity, making her not that optimal. But she's definitely playable with the Korone Climax combo. As for other cards to include at 0, here's a quick overview of some useful cards I'd recommend together with their uses, but you don't really have to limit yourself to this selection, as there's a lot more good stuff available in Hololive. Starting off level 1, I definitely recommend playing into the level 1 Mel and the small package surrounding her. The Mel gains power and a possible free stock when we use an act ability. Now if you have the Matsuri Brainstorm, this will allow you to farm some extra stock for free by using her Power Pump act, which also allows the Mel to reach some crazy numbers even without a climax. The Mel's also playable without the Matsuri Brainstorm, but now instead of gaining free stock, she's only able to refund you the stock for brainstorming unless you resolve multiples. But you might not always want to mill just for the sake of gaining the effect, which means we might have to include some other type of act ability. The other card in this small package is the 1/1 Aki Rose. Up to once per turn when we use an act, this card will allow us to check up to 2 cards from the top of our deck, choose one of them to keep on top and put the rest into waiting room. With this we can fix our top deck to guarantee that the Mel will hit, while also serving as a level assist for our mid to late game, which is especially useful for the Coco finisher, making sure that she can reverse her targets. The on-act ability is also useful during our opponent's turn, allowing the first counter we play in a turn to dig towards the climax. Possible level 1 counters to run with this package would include the 1/1 Mel and the 1/1 Pequota from their respective trial decks, which are also easily grabbable off of a choice trigger. These counters have a way of digging an extra card, meaning that we get a total of 2 cards with the Aki Rose off the top of our deck. The other level 1 options in this deck are pretty straightforward, so here's another list of cards you can consider running outside or even alongside the package mentioned before. The level 2 is probably the least impressive portion of this deck, since we'll be more than likely wanting to focus on early plays. We do have access to a rest counter and an anti-change counter, which could be worth including, but there are no mandatory inclusions at level 2. Now at level 3, since even a single Coco can spend all of your available resources on the finisher, we don't need to run as many copies of her as we otherwise would with another finisher. Instead, we have space to include some cards to help us get through the game at a comfortable pace. The Suisei level 3 is one of the most obvious inclusions. With the lack of color requirement when fulfilling the condition, this card can be played in almost any deck. A heal to stock early play with a very nice condition and some very decent power on attack. If you do not have access to the Suisei, the Fubuki early play can be a decent replacement or even an extra inclusion alongside the Suisei. Next, I want you to consider this Kanata level 3, which I'm a pretty big fan of. On play, we can choose one of 3 abilities to resolve, one of them being a +1 that also prevents our opponent from interacting with our finisher, denying them backups or event counters. The second ability is a heal to stock, and the last ability is the equivalent of slamming a climax. All these abilities are very useful to have, and now they all come packaged onto one card. Then I definitely also want to include the 2 Watame level 3s, one of which can serve as a pinch climax grabber and the other one which is an early play bottom deck sniper, allowing us to remove almost any threat on the board. For alternate finishes, we can consider the Flare level 3. Now she allows for a double cancel burn one without the requirement of a climax combo, which can be pretty scary as well. Combine her with the level 3 Kanata we saw before and the climax for some big swings, they might be able to close out the game in that way. If you do opt to run the Korone level 1 climax, we also have the Korone level 3 that combos on the same climax. This card serves as a costless burn 2 at the end of her attack, but she does shuffle back a climax into your opponent's deck after the effect. It's an alternate finisher that gives a free extra instance of damage, and if you end your attacks with her, then the shuffle back climax doesn't impact your chances of ending the game. Another option is just running the Generation 4 event from the trial deck. This card can give you some insane reach with its burn 4 twice, and reach is something that the Coco definitely lacks. Putting most of these cards together, we end up with something like this. A deck that can keep generating resources to play a very defensive, heal-based game plan and close out the games with a Coco. In this list, you can swap the Watame for the Korone without any other changes. The second list is an example in how I'd fill in for the lack of Matsuri Brainstorm, and as a result we get a deck that can try to play board based at level 1 with the Aki Rose and the additional counters. The third list is an example without the Act package, running some of the other options the set has, and we opt to go into the alternate finishers a bit. Many different combinations are possible even in just this small subset of Hololive, which is a choice. So I definitely recommend trying new things or even just mixing these lists a bit. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, remember to like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.